Hey everybody, welcome to my Crystal Beast deck profile for the April 1st, 2020 format in Master Rule 5. So this is a very interesting deck, and don't take this as any sort of competitive validity, I guess. This deck is not that good at all, it's just super fun to play, and so I really enjoy it. Personally, this is one of my favorite decks. I've had this deck for a very long time, so I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys an updated list of something that I came up with on my own. And yeah, so let's get right to it. So we play, obviously, the 3 copies of Sapphire Pegasus that I had just at the beginning of the video. This card's fantastic, just being able to place any Crystal Beast from your deck in the Spell and Trap zone off of any type of summon off of it. That's including Flip Summon, Special Summon, or normal summoning it. So that's pretty cool, and it's really nice that it does that, and it's not once per turn, which is really nice. Moving on, we played 2 copies of Cobalt Eagle. So the reason we're playing Cobalt Eagle in the main deck over Amber Mammoth is because it is a wind monster, and that's the only reason, honestly. And then we are playing 3 copies of Ruby Carbuncle, which can special summon as many Crystal Beast monsters from the Spell and Trap zone as possible. Absolutely insane effect. This is not once per turn either, although it doesn't really come up more than once per turn. It's still fantastic, and there's a lot of applications for this card, and I think that honestly, Ruby is the best card in the Crystal Beast deck. Like, obviously, if the other cards didn't exist, this card wouldn't be the best card, because, like, obviously you could only summon rubies off of Ruby, but because there are other Crystal Beasts that exist in this list, it makes Ruby just absolutely broken, and you'll have to see that here in some of the replays. In fact, I do have one game to show you guys once we're done with the deck profile, so if you do want to stick around when we're done with the deck profile, I'm going to be showing that game at the end of the video. So yeah. Anyways, Topaz Tiger is the last Crystal Beast that we play in the deck, because he's basically a 2000 normal summon. When he's attacked, he doesn't gain the 400 attack, but like when he does attack, he gains 400 attack, which is really nice, buffing him up to 2000. It's pretty good. That's the only reason that we're playing him over any other Crystal Beasts in the deck. But yeah. 3 copies of Nibiru, because when I played in the tournament that I was expecting just like combo decks pretty much, but you can switch the Nibirus out for any form of hand trap. These could be impermanences, these could be ashes. Like, obviously you could just switch these Nibirus right here for the imperms in the side deck here. So there's a lot you can flex, like this deck is very flexible. I think it's not really like a concrete list. I think that this is just like a good starting out way that you can do this. So I do believe that the 3 Nibirus in the main deck were really nice for me personally. So 1 copy of a Rainbow Dragon, 1 copy of Elemental Hero Neos, 2 copies of a Rainbow Ruins. So I was originally playing 3, but when I was playing 3, my deck was up to like 50 cards, so I had to cut a lot of cards. So I figured cutting a Rainbow Ruins was not a terrible idea, just because I don't want to see multiples in my opening hand. Unfortunately, this isn't searchable, which is kind of an issue. I wish it had like crystal in the card text so we could search it or something like that. But if you're not familiar with this card, it's insane. You get like so many effects off of it. You can get up to 5 effects off of 1 card, which is really crazy. If it has 1 in the Spell and Trap zone, it can't be destroyed by card effects, which is just like insane because it's really cool. You could actually... what I was thinking, honestly, was to play the Malefic Rainbow Dragon in this list as well. Because if you draw Malefic Rainbow Dragon with the Crystal Beast in your Spell and Trap zone and the Rainbow Ruins, then your Malefic guy will never die, like off of card effects, because obviously you have to have a field spell on the field in order for the Malefic monster to stay on the field. Once the field spell leaves, then it dies, but it won't ever be able to... They won't ever be able to kill the field spell by card effects because of its own effect if you have Crystal Beast in your Spell and Trap zone. So the Malefic monster stays on the field, which is really nice. So that's a really good option. Plus it's a 4000 beat stick off of a special summon for free. Like, what? That's crazy. Anyways, Crystal Abundance, we're just playing 1 copy because it's searchable. We play 3 copies of Crystal Beacon because you want to see this card in your opening hand. It's insane. Also, you want to play 3 copies of Crystal Bond because this searches for all of your Crystal Beast cards and it places 1 in your Spell and Trap zone, so like it's broken. 3 copies of Promise because you also want to see this in your opening hand. It's really insane. 1 copy of Crystal Tree because it's searchable, and I mean there's not really a whole lot to say about it, really. You can put more in. You could honestly cut this card altogether if you really wanted. It's just kind of like a decent card. Just being able to, like, I guess, like, proxy, like, a Sapphire Pegasus effect, I guess, is okay, but, like, it's not, like, that great. And for the spice, if you didn't notice, we were playing the one copy of Neos, and the reason we're playing that is for Neos Fusion, so we can fuse for Rainbow Neos out of our extra deck. So we'll get to that here in a second as well. We play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, which is a really broken draw card, honestly, and because of that, we're playing 3 copies of Neos and 3 copies of Earthy Anaconda, which I'll get to in a second. So yeah. 3 copies of Rainbow Bridge, just being able to search for all of your crystal cards. You can search for Tree, Promise, Bond, Beacon, and Abundance. So that's a lot of cards right there. You can also search for Conclave and Raigeki because it doesn't specify just spell cards. It specifies both spell and trap. So that's something really interesting off of that. Crystal Conclave, just being able to go ahead and when a Crystal Beast monster, specifically, not the ones in the spell and trap zone, dies by a battle or card effect, you can special a Crystal Beast from your deck. So something absolutely insane with this card is that you can, if any of your Crystal Beasts die, such as like Pegasus dies or whatever, you can flip this over, special a Ruby from your deck, and Ruby triggers and specials your Pegasus back, which puts another Crystal Beast in your spell and trap zone. So if they kill one of your Crystal Beasts, you get 2 more. Like, that's insane. It's once per turn, though, unfortunately. But it does have another effect that you can send it from the field to the grave and target a Crystal Beast card you control and 1 card on the field and return them to the hand. This is really cool because you can actually target, like, Pegasuses or Rubies that are in your spell and trap zone, put them back in your hand, and then you can basically just put them, like, normal summon them and like do other stuff with them. So I think this card is fantastic. Really cool card. Also with that, Crystal Raigeki, this card is searchable. So I was originally playing 3 copies of this, but I did cut it down similarly to Rainbow Ruins. Honestly, you could probably get away with playing 1 because it is searchable off of Rainbow Bridge, which is not once per turn, by the way. Just being able to pop a card on your opponent's like turn is really cool. And you can trigger this super easy just with a Pegasus. Like if you draw Pegasus, Raigeki, you have a form of disruption, which is really cool. Then moving on into the side deck, I did want to include Amber Mammoth, Amethyst Cat, and Emerald Tortoise in my list somewhere. I just didn't think that they were honestly that good in the main deck. I could fit them in somehow, probably just by cutting like a Cobalt Eagle, a Topaz Tiger, and then maybe like a Raigeki or like 1 copy of Neos Fusion, or just something that I could take out. Maybe you could play like 2 Ash or like instead of like 3 Nibiru's, you could play 2 Nibiru's and then cut like the Eagle, Topaz, and a Nibiru, and that would be your 3 cards that you put in for the other Crystal Beasts. That's an option, I guess. You could try around, mess around that. This, obviously, like I said before, this list is not like a concrete list. You can change it as much as you want. For this specific tournament, I played 3 copies of DD Crow. This could be any hand trap as well. Like, as you can see, there's no Ash in my list, so you can trade the DD Crows for Ashes. Obviously, you could put the Ashes for main deck, and then side the Nibiru's, and then take out the DD Crows. You have a lot of flexibility with that. Lightning Storm in the side deck, obviously, because we're trying to go for a going first list with like all of these trap cards right here. So I did put the Lightning Storm in the side deck so that if we are forced to go second, we have a way to blow out our opponent. Same thing with the Evenly Matched. And the Impermanence is just another form of like a DD Crow to stop them. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Moving on into the extra deck, we're playing 3 copies of Rainbow Neos, 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, 1 copy of Exciton, 1 copy of Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon. So this card is actually really easy to get out, and there's a 2-card combo that gets to this, which gets to a lot of your cards in your extra deck, honestly. But pretty much the combo is to go Rainbow Bridge plus Crystal Bond. Like, this is probably the easiest way. So you can go ahead and Crystal Bond, search for Pegasus, and set a Pegasus in your spell and trap zone. So there's 2 Pegasus, 1 on your field, 1 in your hand. And then you normal summon the other one and set the 3rd in your spell and trap zone. So you'll have all 3 Pegasus on field, 1 in the monster zone, 2 in the spell and trap zone at that point. And then you can use Rainbow Bridge to search for Crystal Beacon. And because you have 2 Crystal Beasts in your spell and trap zone, being both copies of Pegasus, you can go ahead and special summon a Ruby from your deck. And Ruby will special summon the other 2 Pegasus that are in your spell and trap zone. Then both Pegasus can trigger, and then you can set like 2 copies of Topaz Tiger, 2 Ruby, 2 Eagle, or any variation of that, being like 1 and 1, 1 and 1 of this, like any variation of that you would prefer. And then you're going to be having 4 monsters on the field, 3 Sapphire Pegasuses, and 1 Ruby. That's pretty good because then you can overlay all 3 copies of Sapphire Pegasus into the Phantasmal Dragon, and you'll still have a Ruby like sitting on the field in defense mode to chunk block. If you happen to get a second Ruby on the field, you can overlay them later, which is for another card that I'll show here in this list. And this card basically can't die. Like your opponent can't target it with card effects or attacks, so it can't be attacked or targeted, which is really cool. It can be destroyed, so unfortunately, like Lightning Storm destroys it. Dark Hole Raigeki, obviously, like the obvious choices like Dingirsu, stuff like that still affect this card, but it still just can't be targeted, which is a problem for some decks sometimes. 1 copy of Lightning Chidori. Similarly, this requires wind monsters just like the Phantasmal Dragon, but when it's succeeds summoned, you can target a set card your opponent controls and return it to the bottom of the deck. Importantly, you can target set monsters. A lot of people don't really notice that, but you can do that. Most of the time, you're just going to be sending back row anyway, so it's not like it really matters. And then you can detach a material from this card and then target a face-up card your opponent controls. That includes face-up spell cards, by the way. You can put that on the top of the deck. Most of the time, you're obviously going to be targeting face-up monsters, though, with the Chidori effect. So, yeah, and that's just with 2 Pegasuses or 2 Cobalt Eagles or an Eagle and a Pegasus. There's a lot of variations you can get to this card. But I think it's a really fantastic card. And if you do make it with the same combo that I did there, since you'll have one Carbuncle and 3 copies of Pegasus on the field, you could use 2 Pegasuses for the Chidori, and then you'll still have a Ruby and a Sapphire that you can turn into like an IP or something. And then on your opponent's turn, you can turn the IP Chidori into like a unicorn. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The last 60 monster we're playing in the extra deck is a copy of Breaksword, and this is the only rank through that we're playing, and I think it's still really important because you can make this with 2 copies of Ruby Carbuncle, and then you can target a card on each player's field and destroy them, which I think is really nice. We're also playing 1 copy of Appaloosa because I think this card's like insane. It honestly should be ban worthy, but that's a different topic. So then we're also playing, like I said, the IP Masquerena so that we can get into our copy of Unicorn, and we're playing Phoenix just to play around like there can be only 1 or similar type Floodgate cards that we can't really kill normally. Just so that we have an extra deck way to get through it. And then for the last card in our extra deck, we are playing 3 copies of Verte Anaconda, which is insane because we can get to Neos Fusion with this. So we can pay 2,000 of our life points and then send a Fusion or Polymerization, normal or quick play spell from our deck to the grave, and it becomes that effect. Most importantly, you can't Ash this card because it sends as cost. So it's the same thing as like Kaleido Chick, pretty much. And that's pretty crazy. So we can fuse for Neos Fusion, like even if you're sending Neos Fusion, by the way, like Neos Fusion does have the effect to send from your deck, but that's not what you're ashing. You're ashing this part right here. You're ashing this right here, and that, I guess it's the whole effect right here. But you can't ash this because this has nothing to do with your deck. It literally says nothing. There's no deck in that section of the card. This part is the cost, so that's why that works. Anyways, just being able to get Rainbow Neos for free is insane because you can like send your Crystal Beasts that are dead in your Spell and Trap zone to the grave and shuffle your opponent's back row into the deck. You can normal summon any of your Crystal Beasts and then send it to grave and shuffle their monsters back, or you can send the top card of your deck and shuffle their graveyard back into their deck. Like, this card's crazy. Like against BA, like bye to your grave, see ya later. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, that's going to do it for this list. So if you do want to stick around, I do have a deck profile, or not a deck profile, a game to show you guys. So I did play this in like a mini tournament that my local shop actually ended up hosting. So we're starting off. Last time I did this, the replay messed up, but hopefully it's the same. So we start off with a Pegasus, Abundance, Cobalt Eagle, Promise, and Nibiru in our hand. And then he starts off with a Whitestone of Legend, Trade In, Danger Bigfoot, Danger Jackalope, and a Galactic Spiral Dragon. So I go ahead and I start off with a normal summon of Pegasus, setting a Ruby Carbuncle in the Spell and Trap zone. And at that point, I pretty much have to pass my turn. I can't really do anything else. Then for his turn, he's going to go ahead and start off with a copy of Trade-In, discarding a copy of Galactic Spiral Dragon, drawing into an Ash and a Levianeer, shuffles his hand, he reveals a Danger, and I believe I discard the Whitestone of Legend out of his hand. And then the Whitestone of Legend here can search for the Blue Eyes out of his deck. And obviously he gets a draw, drawing into Bigfoot, so he's going to reveal the Bigfoot here. and I believe I do discard a copy of Blue Eyes out of his hand. So that's gonna suck for me, I guess. Then he draws Righty Driver for the draw off of the Bigfoot, and then he can special Lefty Driver, which gives him access into Hauki Fibrax, which will get him his White Stone of Legend, which he can use all of them off into a Boral Sword, revealing Danger Jackalope in his hand. He can go ahead and first off, he had to. It's a mandatory to search the Blue Eyes White Dragon, so he had to do that. So I discard the Levianeer, and then he specials the Jackalope from his hand, drawing into another copy of Levianeer, banishing 3, popping both of my cards. So since Pegasus was destroyed, it goes to the Spell and Trap Zone, and then the Ruby was destroyed, so it goes to Grave. Then he attempts to go into Battle Phase, and I hit him with the Nibiru, and I'm going to put this in attack mode, and I believe this Nibiru is, this token is sitting at 9,500, and I think he's just misclicking here instead of, hitting Grave since he's in the Battle Phase. But anyways, it's at 9,500 and 2,000 defense, and he passes this turn to me. So I draw for turn, drawing into a copy of Cobalt Eagle. First, I start off with Rainbow Bridge, searching for any Crystal Beast cards. So I search for Crystal Bond. Honestly, I probably could have searched for Beacon here, which might have been a better option. But either way, I get the Sapphire Pegasus and set one on my scale. And I should have probably put a Ruby in the scale here, but I mean, I set it off of the Sapphire, so it all works together. Next, Promise is going to special Ruby, which specials both copies of Sapphire Pegasus, which will trigger both their effects, getting me the Cobalt Eagle and the Topaz Tiger. Next, I'm going to link off the Ruby and the Sapphire Pegasus into the Verte Anaconda, paying 2,000 life points, sending Neos Fusion. He attempts to Ash me here, and I tell him that it sends us cost, so he can't Ash me, and he's like, okay. So I send Neos and Rainbow Dragon, and then I use Rainbow Neos to shuffle the token, and at that point, that is game. So moving into game number 2, he forces me to go first because his is a going second deck. So I go ahead with a Crystal Bond, searching for Sapphire Pegasus, and then I set one in my scale, or not scale, but I guess it is the Pendulum Scale, but it's not the Pendulum Scale right now. Pegasus sets another one in the Spell and Trap Zone, and then I'm going to use Beacon to special the Ruby, which will special 2 copies of Sapphire Pegasus, getting me Eagle and Tiger out of the deck. I overlay into Dweller because I do realize that he's playing a lot of the stones, so I feel like it's important to make the Dweller here. This Pegasus should be in defense mode. I just forgot to put it in defense mode, I guess, but I just deal with it. He activates Trade-In, which I chained the Dweller here. Drawing 2 copies, he draws into the Melody, discarding the Galactic Spiral Dragon. He searches for Blue Eyes, and 2 copies. He actually misclicked and didn't mean to search for the other copy of Blue Eyes, so we do fix the game state here because he searches for the alternative instead, and we shuffle the Blue Eyes back into the deck. Next, he reveals the Blue Eyes and specials alternative from the hand, and then he uses Thunderbird's effect to go ahead and special summon itself, which I hit the Call by the Grave out of his hand. He draws into a second Call by the Grave and just sets it. Moving into the battle phase, he attacks me for 1,200, and then attacking over my Dweller, but I decide actually on the Destruction of Sapphire Pegasus to activate Crystal Conclave, being able to special summon Ruby from the deck and then using it to special summon Pegasus, as well as my Topaz Tiger. Also, I could have used a Crystal Tree at some point in this, but honestly it was unnecessary. Sapphire Pegasus is going to set the Topaz Tiger in the scale, or not in the scale, the Spell and Trap Zone, and then the Abyss Dweller dies off of the Thunderbird, and then he passes his turn. Actually, no, he's going to overlay for Titanic Galaxy, which is a spell negate, which is a problem for me, but it's not that big of a problem because I can overlay into Break Sword, and this is the best play that I think that I came up with on my own. So I go ahead and I use Break Sword, targeting Conclave and Call by the Grave, or the back row, whichever it is, which is Call by the Grave in this case. And he can actually chain here, but he doesn't. I don't know why. And then on that, I chain Conclave. So Conclave is going to send itself from the grave, and then it's going to target the Titanic Galaxy, as well as my Cobalt Eagle, return them to the hand. His Titanic Galaxy is gone. I played around the spell negate because I didn't use any spell cards during that. I used a trap and a monster, but I didn't use a spell. Next, I can activate Crystal Tree, and then I can go ahead and use the Crystal Bond to search for another Cobalt Eagle, since it's the only card left in my deck. I set a Ruby in the scale, or the Spell and Trap Zone. I keep saying scale. Normal summon Cobalt Eagle, flip the Sapphire Pegasus to attack mode, and then I'm going to use the Cobalt Eagle and the Pegasus, or not Pegasus, the Topaz Tiger and the Eagle into a Verte Anaconda, paying 2,000 life points, summoning the Rainbow Dragon from the deck. That is 5,000 right here, and then that's 7,000 if you include the Break Sword, as well as 8,800 if you include the Pegasus, which is game. So that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and this is a really cool replay that I ended up doing. Anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.